Welcome to Weirdos. My name is Kellen.
And my name is Jay.
Groundskeeper,
Walmart.
nurse,
Kellers.
summer camp counselor,
Volunteer State Bookstore.
volunteer state bookstore.
Nice. So, in case you're wondering what that randomness was, this episode, we're going to be talking about our previous jobs we've had and some wacky stories to go along with them. So I went out of order on mine, but we're just going to dive into this one. I think it's going to kind of just flow pretty easily out of our mouths.
Yeah.
So my first official job was at Keller's Restaurant in Trousdale County.
I'm sorry.
So I worked there a total of 3 hours and 30 minutes.
You didn't even make it through a shift.
So picture this. I'm in high school, and my parents want me to get a job. We live in Hartsville. Okay. So I could bag groceries at Piggly Wiggly, or I could bag groceries at Foodland, or I could work as a busboy at Keller's. So I chose to work at Keller's. If you're not from Hartsville, you don't know what Keller's is. You never will know. You really, honestly, to God, have no reason to ever know. But I got a job at Keller's, and they're like, hey, we just want you to bus tables, do dishes. I'm like, okay. Strike one is working in the kitchen. I did not have no-slip shoes. So the shoes I had were very slippery.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but if you've ever worked in a restaurant, the floors in the kitchen are a little soggy.
Yeah.
Especially where the dishwashers are, which is what I was doing, and taking out the trash, which is what I was doing. So I fell a couple times, and then I was like I was slippery the whole time. Strike 2 and 3 before I was out came with me bussing tables. You may not know this about me. Lindsay knows it, but food kind of grosses me out, especially wet food. So I don't like onions. If we have onions, she has to cut them. And every meal we order that comes in the box, all of them have some damn onions in them, and I just can't do it. I won't eat them. I won't touch them. Last night I did. She was home late. I literally took an oven mitt, a towel, and I grabbed the onion. I took a fork and a knife, and I just sliced little pieces off as best I could. It just grosses me out. So if my own food grosses me out, then food from other people really grosses me out. So I was having to bust tables, so it was already gross. I'm like, oh, this is gross. They had long tables, longer than this one, where 8 people could sit in a booth.
Right.
I sat down, scooted down, wiped off the table, and the manager chewed me out. Like, you can't do that. Well, first of all, I've seen this happen at many restaurants in my lifetime. I've seen people sitting down clean off tables. Yeah. Second of all, I'm not Mr. Fantastic. My arm is not going to magically stretch down this table and grab those napkins or those empty glasses. I don't know what the hell you want me to do. So, it made me feel like garbage. I'm like, this is what jobs are? This is what work is? I don't want to do this. So I told my mom about it, and I made it sound a lot worse than it was. But to me, it was a very terrible night. And it was rainy that night, too. So I had to take out the trash all night. It was just a bad situation. So I came home. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And she's like, that's fine, but you got to find another job. I'm like, deal. So I called Keller's the next day. I'm like, oh, hey, so I need to return my uniform. They're like, why? I'm like, I got a job with my mom, which was a lie. So I told them I was going to go work with my mom, made my mom take my uniform back. Haven't stepped foot back in that place since. Never will. That was my first job.
Wow.
3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah, my first real job was filing. I won't even say a file clerk. I guess that's the correct title. But for Tennessee Christian Medical Center, they had bought several hospitals, and they decided to consolidate all of their records into one building in Portland, Tennessee, at the Tennessee Christian Medical Center there. And so we had all the rooms set up, Madison, Portland, whatever else, Hendersonville. I don't remember where all they had hospitals, not important. But it was the most mind-numbingly boring job I have ever had. I seriously think being paid to watch paint dry would have been more interesting than this, because all it was taking boxes of files and going to whatever room they belonged to and then putting them on shelves in alphabetical order, which, if you don't know, medical charts come in 3-letter alphabetical order. So it's last initial, the next letter after the last initial, and then first initial. So 3 hours, 3 days a week, at night, in a room that had no speakers, no music, no sound, with 2 other people in separate rooms. So you're in a room by yourself, silent, picking up boxes, putting files in. One night, I was like, I'm going to the Madison room. I'm going to work on that one because that was the biggest hospital. And I shut the door, locked it, laid down on the carpet, slept for 2 hours, got up, put 1 box away, and went home. Slept on this 20-year-old carpet. I didn't care. It was so boring. Got called into my manager's office, and she was like, it's been reported to me that you're not super enthusiastic. I'm like, I am not. I'm not enthusiastic at all. This is the worst. This is so terrible.
What's funny is if you've ever had reason to question this friendship and while we're friends, my second job was filing medical records.
So
it was
boring.
the exact same thing. The difference was, so my mom got me this job. It's just a summer and winter break job.
Yeah, that was mine. Was a summer job.
Ours was all the records were in a house across the street from the office. So I got to work in this house with 2 incredibly attractive girls doing the exact same thing, but we were like condensing it and moving it from room to room.
Yeah.
I was allowed to bring my boombox. So we did have the boombox and we were jamming. But that was my second job, was doing the exact same thing. High five. Yes.
That's crazy.
After that, I mean, was volunteer state your next one?
No, that was the summer of 4 jobs. That was a crap summer. No, that was when I was at Vol State. I got a job doing weekends in the Vol State bookstore.
I also worked in the bookstore. The best part about the bookstore,
I loved that job though.
It was fun, and the manager, I can't remember him to say my
red
life,
hair, glasses.
Yeah, he was super cool.
Such an awesome.
And they gave you full price when you sold your books back. You got a discount when you bought them. Like, it was,
and you got to get your books before everyone else, so you didn't have to worry about them running out.
It was perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
Loved that job.
I transitioned from that to Hollywood Video. I loved Hollywood Video. R.I.P. If you know me, you know I love movies. So I got a job at Hollywood Video while I was working at the bookstore. So there was a time I was working 2 jobs. So my dad had a heart attack, stroke, one or the other. And it was on Christmas Eve. So he was unable to work. We had trouble paying bills. So I took on 2 jobs, and like my check from the bookstore was going to the family, which is tough for a kid. So I started working at Hollywood Video, and I have some bad stories to tell about Hollywood Video, but I loved Hollywood Video. They had TVs. We could put it whatever movies we in.
Yeah.
My shift was usually the 6 to 1 a.m., so 6 p.m. to 1 a.m., which sounds awful, but when you're young, and these are the days where I was borderline insomniac, that was a fun shift. So I would work with who became one of my good friends, Kerwin. He would always want to watch 8 Crazy Nights or 8 Mile. Watching 8 Mile while you're putting movies up is great. So basically, Hollywood Video, when you're not checking people out, you're putting movies back on the shelves.
Yeah.
You hate the medical records job, but what I love about that is the organization. Like, I'm a very organized person.
Yeah.
Like, putting stuff in alphabetical order gets me going. Like, like, I love it. So putting these movies back and straightening them, like, I loved it.
Yeah.
One story. So I eventually became a manager there. But before I was, Kerwin was a manager, and a guy named Dwayne, I think was his name. He would smoke in the store when we closed. So we closed at midnight, but like from 12 to 1, we would be finalizing everything. He would take the security tape out and just go and put up movies, like just fill the whole place up with smoke. I'm like, that guy is freaking awesome. Kerwin, when I closed with him, it was the night or the week Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, came out on DVD. And we had the cardboard cutouts and everything. And he was like, do you want one of these? I'm like, I don't know. I might get it when we get paid. He's like, no, I mean, like, do you want one of these?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what? And he like handed me one. I'm like, okay. So that started my life of crime. But I enjoyed Hollywood Video for the most part. There's this one dude that always came in that always gave me a hard time. And he came in one time and asked, you got Jumanji? And this was on a Saturday night. And video stores on Saturday nights were hopping. So when I was a manager, I had to get in line and help check out. We had 3 lines, and they were back, like the whole store. And this guy comes between them. I'm like, you got Jumanji? I'm like, you see that section over there with the J? It's right there. He's like, it's ridiculous. And he stormed out. A few minutes later, a phone rings, and I answer it. I want to talk to the manager. I'm like, you got him. And he hung up the phone. I never saw that MFer again. Another thing that happened to me at Hollywood Video is I had a grandmother. And this is the first time I realized that grandmothers can be dicks.
Yeah.
You don't think grandmothers can be. I know there's people out there whose grandparents are awful. Mine were not awful. This woman came in, and she's a little old lady. She had curls, and her movies were late, and I told her, and she got mad and threw the VHSs at me, like threw them at me.
Wow.
Well, you heifer. Like,
Wow.
ridiculous.
Get somebody throw a DVD at you. I mean, that's going to hurt. But a VHS with the pointy corners, they have some heft to
Could have
them.
put my eyes out.
Yeah, she could.
Good thing I got my spectacles on. But I enjoyed Hollywood Video a lot. I transitioned to Walmart, but before I transitioned to Walmart, and I was still working Hollywood Video, and I did a video for TikTok today, which you saw. This was my crowning achievement at Hollywood Video, or most embarrassing moment, however you want to view it. So it was when either Kill Bill or Kill Bill 2 came out on DVD. I want to say it was the first one.
Yeah.
I'm working, and this guy and his friends come in like, hey, you got Kill Bill? And this is literally, it just came out. So there's like 2 walls dedicated to it. I'm like, right there. He goes, I go back to what I was doing. What I was doing at the time, if you remember, Hollywood Video Blockbuster always had like movie new release signs.
Yeah.
So I was out on a ladder putting those up and have like this like paint scraper thing that you're like flattening it down with.
Right.
It was a pain. I could never get them straight. Awful. Today, that still bothers me today, not getting them straight. But when I think about it, I'm like, those are never straight. Like, Johnny Depp's eyes did not match up. But, so I'm out there doing that. I come back in, and as I come back in, those 3 dudes are coming up, and they have their shirts tucked in now, and they're just like bundled. Like, they've gotten fatter somehow while they're in the store. So they had taken all these movies. I assume it was all Kill Bill. That's definitely what they were aiming for.
Yeah.
And they stuffed it down their shirts. Took their shirts in so it wouldn't fall out. So they were stealing all these movies. And people stole movies all the time. I can't tell you how many times the alarms, because they had alarms at the doors, you know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times, bling, 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 and there's like, forget it. I mean, it just comes with the job. These dudes had 100 movies stuffed in. And I'm the one who pointed them where to go. And it pissed me off that they did that. I'm like, hey, stop. They ran outside. I had my paint scraper. Naturally, I ran outside too, because these videos were obviously my personal property, and I had to protect them. I throw the paint scraper. I miss. There's a getaway car waiting for him. At this time, I was driving a very luxurious navy blue PT Cruiser. It was
The
sexy.
height of sophistication.
I got it for a graduation gift, and the ladies loved it. So instead of letting this go, these people just stole movies. It's like I said, it's not my fault. It's not on me. I decided to jump in that PT Cruiser and chase them. So this was the Hollywood Video in Hermitage, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with that area, but there's a shopping center right behind it with the Publix. They go behind that shopping center. There's only one exit. It's on the other end. I speed out, and that PT Cruiser, boy, it can go. I go to the other end. I wait for them. Here they come. They jump down. They get down on the road. It's a back road. They take off. I follow them for like 20 minutes. And like they're going 80. I'm going 80 on this road I've never driven before in my life. I finally realized like this is dumb. They lost me. Like I never really came to the conclusion that this was dumb. I was going to catch them. That was I don't know what the end game was. Like, citizens arrest. Give me those Kill Bill DVDs now. Like, it's just, I don't know what I was going to accomplish.
They jump out of the car. They're like, we're so sorry. We're going to become better people.
Yeah, with my purple Hollywood Video shirt and my black dress pants. Like, it's just, so I come back to the store and my manager chewed me out. The cop they had called chewed me out. The girl I was dating chewed me out. My parents chewed me out. There was a kid there with his parents renting a movie. He looked at me and said, "You're dumb." Like, "You're correct, sir. I am dumb." So for whatever reason, I just had to catch them for stealing my Kill Bill DVDs. I did not. I don't know where they are today. Maybe they're listening. You bring those movies back.
We should do an eBay
Hollywood Video
search.
doesn't exist anymore.
Do an eBay search for Hollywood Video Kill Bill.
I'm actually gonna write into Netflix and see if we can get a true crime documentary written up about this. It could happen.
Where did the DVDs go?
It was a
man.
chilly night, Saturday, Hollywood Video.
Oh man. So second job, you mentioned that filing was your second job. My second job I don't necessarily count. It was working for my dad doing low voltage wiring. I mean it was a job, and I got paid and had to show up and do stuff. But I mean, I rode with my dad, so I mean, it's if your boss is taking you to work and allows you to take breaks and
Touch
goof
you at
around.
Kisses you on your forehead before bed.
Night night, bud. See you in the morning. Then I don't really consider that a job. Like there was no. I don't know why he tells us to wiggle that. I've tried that before. Once it goes to screensaver, it's done.
So what we're seeing here is our screensaver came up. Ronnie's like, all you gotta do is move the mouse, and I'm moving the mouse. If you're not watching on the YouTube channel, then you don't know what we're going on. So we'll move.
Just
move
assume it's hysterical. So I think my second real job was groundskeeper. So out of high school, I applied everywhere. There was a place in Portland that was a call center, and they took high school kids left and right. Like all you had to do was have a pulse and be able to answer a telephone, both of which I could do.
That sounds like the job market now.
As a timid kid, though, answering the phone sounded like a nightmare, but I needed money, so I had a hard time calling Pizza Hut to order the pizza for my family. I don't know how I was going to handle a call center, but I needed a job. I didn't get that. I applied to Walmart, didn't get call back, didn't get anything. Could not get a job, like a real job anywhere.
Wow.
So I got a job at the apartments I ended up living in. Because working there, I got a discount and moved in with my girlfriend and another friend at the time. So I was the groundskeeper. And this is a funny story in hindsight, but at the time it wasn't because I needed the job. My job basically was to drive the golf cart around and pick up cigarette butts and paint doors. I didn't have any real responsibilities. I cleaned the pool every morning, leaves out of the pool, cleaned out the traps. I made keys for people. If they lost their apartment key, I would make spare keys for them. A real simple job. Mm-hmm. I mean, picking up cigarette butts, it doesn't get easier than that unless the people pick them up and hand them to you. But it was the end of the week, and I can't remember the guy's name. He was useless. He spent more time at Lowe's getting stuff than he did actually fixing stuff. He never had anything.
He worked smarter. You worked harder.
He never had anything. I need somebody to come out and fix my air conditioning unit. Oh, man, I don't have that part on. I have to run to Lowe's. He would be gone for an hour. Lowe's was 5 minutes away. So
long lines, come on.
It must have been the one part they didn't have. That was what he was looking for. But he was like, hey, we got some people from corporate coming in. Need to see if you could come in on a Saturday. And I was Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Hadn't missed a day, was always punctual. I lived there. I mean, I literally woke up and walked to the office and clocked in and then hopped in my golf cart. And I was like, yeah, sure. I should be able to. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, hopefully it'll be able to work out. Well, my mom calls me later that day and she's like, hey, there's a super awesome yard sale. You want to go to the yard sale? I was like, yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
So go to the yard sale. I'm like, I already worked my 40 hours this week, or 32. I think I was 32 hours. I already worked my 32 hours. I don't need to come in on Saturday. That's not my scheduled day. So go to the yard sale, have a great time. Go back to my apartment, chill. Monday morning comes around, get up, get dressed, go out, do my normal routine, go unlock the shed, get the golf cart out, grab a bucket of paint and a paintbrush to start painting doors. And I'm painting doors, and the guy who was my immediate supervisor comes over. He's like, hey, I'm going to have to let you go. Really needed you Saturday. So I'm kind of like Craig from Friday, like how you get fired on your day off. And so, yeah, I didn't handle that very well. I said some rude things. I was a jerk back then. I was like, hey, Mr. Maintenance Man, I need you to come to my room, my apartment, and fix something. And he was like, fill out a work request, and just walked off. And I was like, you son of a...
Called your bluff.
Yeah, he did. That was my second job, groundskeeper. I was there for about 3 or 4 months. I enjoyed the job. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed learning how to make keys.
It seems like you had to paint a lot of doors.
There was a lot of doors there. Village Green Apartments was a large complex.
Why'd you have to paint doors all the time?
It was they just
sun soaked.
No, they had walkways that you had to go to get to the doors. No, it was just it was like a rotation. It was just getting
Just keep
scuffed
them
up.
fresh.
Yeah,
This is why you pay so much.
to make it look good.
Like, I'd rather my rent be cheaper than have a fresh coat of paint on my door every month, honestly.
But luckily, losing that job led to my favorite job of all time, which was the camp counselor at a summer camp for special needs people. That was a great job.
And if you know Kellen, that's the job for him.
It was a phenomenal job. Oh my God, loved every minute. I got peed on working at that job. I had a guy that.
Is that why you're smiling?
No, I'm not.
I love that job. I got peed on.
No,
guys.
this is not going to turn into the odd R. Kelly podcast. No, no, it was just one of the things that happened. It's a hilarious story. I had an accident, and I took him back to get showered and cleaned up in a fresh pair of clothes. And while I was helping shower this gentleman, I felt my leg get warm, and he starts laughing, and I looked down, and he was peeing on my leg. So I just took the hose and washed my leg off. But the funniest story from that summer was the last night there. So there was a tradition at the camp, and the camp director even knew it, that some of the counselors would go skinny dipping in the pool. So it was a lakefront property, gorgeous property. If you ever get a chance to look up Camp Discovery in Gainesboro, Tennessee, it is a beautiful
That's where I'm going next
camp.
weekend.
Really? Gainesboro?
We're going for Lindsay's parents' anniversary. Got a cabin up there.
Oh. Motorcycle. So you should look up Camp Discovery. Don't try to drive there. It's like 20 minutes deep into the hills of Gainesboro. It's not like get off the interstate, take this right, and there it is. It's like take a right, take a left, go down this one lane road, go up this hill, take another left. But gorgeous camp. And like I said, there was a tradition the last night there. The counselors would do what early 20, late teen people would do: drink, party, have a good time, because you're celebrating successful camp. So you'd pick. There was a couple of people that would hang back and watch the campers that would stay in the cabin, wouldn't partake. I wasn't one of those people. I got to go out and have fun. End up throwing up on the sidewalk because of some hot vodka. Sorry, Mom. But the director told us, she was like, okay, so I know what happens the last night here. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, at 9 o'clock, I go to bed. I'm going to go to sleep at 9 o'clock. Lights out for me. Whatever happens between 9 and 6 a.m., I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As long as nothing wakes me up, I'm not going to know what happened. So we're just like, okay, she's cool with it. So 9 o'clock comes, lights out in her cabin, party time. So me and a couple of the other counselors were hanging out on the dock for the lake. So we're laying in the dark, just a couple of us sitting there talking and sharing stories from the summer. The rest of the counselors go to the pool. So the way this dock worked, it was a little inlet of the lake, and the dock spanned from one side to the other. So you could use that dock to cross over to where the cabins were faster. So there, you can hear them in the pool splashing, having a great time. Out of nowhere, this yellow Nissan Xterra with a flood lamp hanging out the door comes flying over the hill with the light shining on the pool. So the camp director comes flying over the hill. Everyone panics. They jump, and she's laughing the whole way. She knew what she was doing. She wasn't trying to get anybody in trouble. She was just messing with them. So people are scattering, trying to grab clothes. We're laying on the dock in the dark, okay? And this is funny. I'm going to name the people and their colors because it's important to the story. It was a short Mexican guy and a skinny black guy that come running across the deck or the dock butt naked. And the reason I point that out is because it was the funniest auditory thing that has ever happened in my life. Because you could tell who was in first. All of a sudden you hear black guy comes running by. Short every Mexican guy behind him. Plot twist, he had weed in his pocket, and she was going to take their clothes and hang them up on something, and the weed fell out, so she had to call the police.
Wow.
Not the black guy, the short Mexican guy, so don't be racist.
Why did she have to call the police?
Because there was drugs at the camp, and she didn't want to get in trouble.
Baloney.
She got paid very good for 7 weeks of work.
Wow.
So I mean, I'm talking like $20,000 or $30,000 for 7 weeks.
To get a yellow Nissan
Xterra, yeah, she killed it. But yeah, that still sticks out in my mind. I was laying there just hearing doom 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 doom. Luckily, that guy's mom worked at the sheriff's department, so it's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah. What was your next job? What was your favorite job?
Is there such a thing?
Yeah.
Hollywood Video. I liked Hollywood Video.
I mean, if you have to work, you're not blessed with a billionaire set of parents.
That's true. Well, Hollywood Video was a lot of fun, but it didn't pay that great. So that's when I had to go next door to Walmart, start my career. 6.5 years of my life at Walmart.
But I was vested beauty.
I became a manager like super quick. So I started. Jameson hired me. For those of you who don't know, Jameson hired me.
Jameson of Blackwell Realty.
Not a sponsor.
Not anymore.
But he hired me for the photo lab, and it was a fun job. I met a lot of people there. Majority of the people I know in my life are either from music or from Walmart. How did you met? Oh, he was in a band, or we worked at Walmart together. I was manager over the photo lab. It was cool. Jameson eventually moved on to bigger, better things in the company. So I didn't have that to fall back on. Like, he took care of me for the most part. So I became manager of the photo lab, which is super fun. I'm just developing pictures. A lot of gross, nasty pictures. There's some that I will not speak of on camera. And I'm pissed at myself today for not doing something about it. But it was fun. One fun thing from that, I had a store manager. The machine broke all the time. So I don't know if you remember what photo labs used to look like. There's this giant machine in the middle, and that's where the liquids and everything were that made these photos. It broke all the time. So there was a number to call. So the manager always had to call the supervisor. So I gave him the phone number, and one day I wrote a number down wrong. And his name was Wade. And I can't remember his last name, but he came out, and he was blood red. He was blood red, and he's like, "You did that on purpose." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I legitimately did not do this on purpose. He's like, "That was a sex line." So I had written the number down wrong. So he's back there in his office like, "Hey."
For 99 cents a minute, you can talk to Sarah.
We can't fix your photo machine, but we can get you hot. But I like working the photo lab. Walmart was 50-50. Sometimes Walmart was okay. Most of the time it wasn't. My favorite memories of Walmart is the gentleman who I mentioned earlier at Hollywood Video came over with me. I'm not going to tell you which one, but he smoked weed all the time. All the time. This man could not function without it. There were times he would come in and he was stone cold sober. I'm like, "Please go home and smoke a joint. Come back when you're better." I swear to God. But being the supervisor, I was over all them. They then made me supervisor of electronics. So I was over electronics in the photo lab. So with electronics comes a lot more. One thing we had to do all the time was called a reset. Reset is when all the stuff changes. All the TVs come down, new TVs go up. All the shelves come down, new shelves go up.
Gross.
And we would have to do that overnight. I loved it.
Oh, your organization.
I love doing that overnight. Yeah, because I love organizing. And I could always pick who does it with me. So I'd always make Kerwin do it. My friend Kerwin, I would make Roger do it. Always make the guy who's high to him do it. Like, we would all do it. And we would put on a DVD and watch the movies, and we would just knock it all out.
Yeah.
I had one supervisor, her name was Tina, and she would help us, and she'd just be like, she'd just be like leaning over. She was so tired. She's like, "I'm going to take a break." She'd go take a break. She'd come back, and she was just firing on all cylinders. I'm like, okay, so she's on cocaine. Obviously on cocaine.
Tina Montaigne.
But so I'm over electronics, and I had a lot of personal stuff there. Like, that's where I met a girl I dated for a long time. That's where Scoon from the previous episode called me gay. But I was great at my job. But a lot of issues that Walmart has is theft. especially in the electronics department, just going back to Hollywood Video, like
Right.
that's just the way it is. And they hold that against you. I'm like, the numbers have gone up every year, but I wasn't the supervisor for all this. They've been going up. That's not a me
Right.
problem. That's
It's
a
a
store
trend.
problem,
Yeah.
you know. But I had a guy, so I would always get my evaluations. They would always be 5 out of 5. New supervisor come in. She hated my guts. She coached me like the first week she was there, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember the situation was me and a guy who I absolutely adored named Denver, who was in his 70s. We were the only people on the floor. And she got onto me for not completing a task. And I'm like, what'd you want me to do? All these people need help. Denver's the only one here. So she wrote me up. She gave my evaluation, gave me a 3. She eventually left. This new guy came in, and he gives me my first evaluation. He's like, looks like somebody didn't like you. I'm like, thank you. He gave me, I'm like, I'm freaking awesome. Like, I'm good at my job. But towards the end of Walmart, the reason I left Walmart is because I had already absorbed electronics. So in September of 2009, they said, you're going to take over toys. I'm like, instead of electronics, like, no, you're going to do both. Oh, okay. Well, how much more money? Oh, it's not a raise. No, so you want me to take over the busiest and most destructive area besides electronics right before Christmas, and you're not going to give me any more money.
Wow.
I'm going to pass. No, thank you. Well, if you don't take it, you can't be supervisor of electronics anymore. So that's when I dusted off my resume to start my new chapter in life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was trying to think funny stories of jobs I've had. So I was a tech at the hospital. And at one point I worked on the brain injury unit on the 3rd floor, and occasionally we would have to go to pick people up. So we were an acute brain injury facility. So these were people that had gotten past being in critical care and were no longer severe enough to stay in the hospital, but needed a lot of aftercare therapies and the such. And so me and my friend Hamilton got picked to drive to Indianapolis, from Gallatin, Tennessee to Indianapolis. It's like a 5.5 hour drive. And we were going to go pick up this guy. All we knew about him was he was in a wheelchair, so we had to take a wheelchair van. So we drive up there the night before, get in our hotel. We go to the nursing home the next day where he had been staying. We go to pick him up, get him in the wheelchair. They said, now he says, excuse me all the time. So you're going to have to deal with that. Like, that's fine. We can just, turn the radio up. And
It's just like, excuse me,
yeah,
excuse
it's not
me.
for anything. It's just part of his brain injury. It's just, excuse me. And you'd be like, hey, yeah, what do you need? Excuse me.
Like scrubs, like, hey, number 2.
Yeah.
Hey, number 1.
Yeah, exactly like that. So we get him in the van. The vans, now, if you've never seen or been in a wheelchair van, they have anchors on the floor with these straps so that the person can stay in their wheelchair. You put them on the lift, you wheel them into the van, you put these straps through their chair in a way that when you ratchet it down, that chair becomes part of the van. It's not going anywhere. So run the straps, get it strapped in. And they were like, and one other thing, he's incontinent, so we'll pack some adult briefs to send with you. You probably have to change him on the way. Okay, that's fine. So we get all the way through Kentucky. We're about 45 minutes outside of Gallatin. I check him. He's wet. So we'll pull over at a truck stop and go inside. I'll take him to the bathroom. We'll get him cleaned up. And then that way when we bring him to the hospital, he'll be good to go. So go in, wheel him in, get him in there, get him changed, get him cleaned, back in his wheelchair, back in the van, put the lift up, strap him in, check the wheelchair to make sure that it's secure, get out. Hamilton has gone in because he had to use the bathroom as well. So he's at the register getting ready to buy like a pair of sunglasses because it was sunny. I'll go in. I'm like, I'm going to use the bathroom, and then I'll meet you back at the van. So as I go to shut the back door of the van, I find a button I've never found before. Been there for a year. No idea what this button does. Never seen this button before in my life. So I'm like, pushing this button. No idea. Oh, well. Shut the van. Go inside, use the bathroom, come back out. The doors are locked, which wouldn't be an issue if Hamilton didn't leave the van running. So the van's running with a brain injury patient in his wheelchair, strapped in such a way that there's no way, even if I could explain to him how to unlock the door, that he could get to the door to unlock it. So I had to go in and tell him I had to pay out of pocket for a tow truck driver to come and unlock the van to get us in so that we could get back. My boss was none too happy about that.
I imagine.
When I called him and I was like, hey, lock the guy in the van. Okay, we'll just unlock the van. Can't unlock the van because it's running. What? So, yeah, they let me take care of people.
I feel like there was more to that story.
No, that was it. No, I
Did
didn't.
you not tell me, like, excuse me? I feel like...
Oh, yeah, the whole time he's in the van, he's just saying, excuse me. And I'm like, there's nothing I can't do anything. He's just in there, excuse me. And I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from Walmart, I transitioned to TOA, which is where I am now, so I can't tell any stories about that without repercussions. But I met you at Ball State.
Yeah.
But I also met you at CC's Pizza.
CC's Pizza. I still remember all those songs. I worked at CC's Pizza for 11 months, and that's probably the best quitting story I have. Humble brag real quick.
Take a shot.
I had to work a Saturday morning, and I was supposed to work with this kind of douchey guy that was like a senior in high school. He had
Jeff.
to take his ACT. I don't know. We'll call him Jeff. I worked with a guy named Matt, who I'm pretty sure was also a fan of cocaine, like your story. But Matt was cool. Matt was not cool. You know what? I don't want people to mess with my food. And I saw Matt drop a pizza off the counter face down one time and scoop it back up, sprinkle cheese, and throw it in the oven. I was like, that is not cool.
Well, the heat's going to get rid of any bacteria.
Is it though? But is it going to get rid of the thought? You know what it's like to work in a kitchen. That ground gets gross and grimy and slick.
Disgusting.
But anyway, back to my humble brag. So me and this other pizza cook who had worked at the CC's in Rivergate for a while would race to see who could put a rack of pizzas together. So a rack of pizzas was 15 individual pizzas. You had a specific order that you had to go in. It was like pepperoni, cheese, sausage, supreme, vegetarian, cheese, pepperoni, barbecue,
Chicken?
Mexican, different pizzas that you had to go in order of. And each rack was built the same.
Keep naming pizzas. Let's just see how long you can go.
Keep naming. Yeah. So we would race to see how fast we could make it. And the fastest I ever did a rack of 15 was just at 6 minutes, not 6 seconds.
That's impossible.
Ta-da!
You bragged about the last episode how fast you were. I didn't know you were that fast.
You've never talked to my wife. No, so it was like 6 minutes and 11 seconds. Gustavo was like 6 minutes and 7. I could never beat him. He was fast.
Gustavo sounds fast.
Yeah, he was. He was super quick. So Gustavo was, like I said, he worked there before at the one in Rivergate, so he was already experienced. But to build the pizza, you had to take the dough ball, put it in a press, pull the press down, put it on a pan, fit it to the pan, roll it with this thing that would keep bubbles from forming, and then you'd sauce, cheese, and whatever toppings. By that point, we both could do the rack without looking at the sheet because we'd made so many. So anyway, that Saturday, I was supposed to work with Douche McGee, whatever his name was. Had that douche hair that all the kids had in the early 2000s. But he was like, I'm going to be late because I got to go take my ACT at 8. I'll come in after my ACT. Well, he never showed up. Saturday in the summer was the worst day to be by yourself because the one in Gallatin, the Little League teams would come after their games, and they all would get there about 12. So Little League teams would show up. Fire department showed up that day to eat. EMT crews showed up. It was packed. So I was by myself for 4 hours. Anybody want to guess how many pizzas I made in 4 hours?
15.
15. That was it. I made 15 pizzas. I took off my apron and walked out the door. I was like, I'm not doing this. Nobody's getting pizza. 600. I made 600 pizzas in 4 hours by myself.
Wow.
Is
that a CC's record?
I don't know.
They have your picture on the wall.
They were gonna make me a manager, and then like right before I was supposed to fly to Dallas to become to go do the manager training, the 2-week training course. I told my manager Rusty, I don't want to do it. And he was like, I've already filled out the paperwork. And I'm like, sorry. But anyway, so okay, God, this is going to be the all CC's Pizza episode. So when I first started at CC's Pizza, I went to Columbia, Tennessee to learn how to do the back. So make the dough, make the breadsticks, all that, and then how to make the pizzas, like what the process was, so that when I got there, I could be one of the trainers. So before they opened, the weekend before they opened, they did what was called a friends and family. So if you worked second shift, you came in on first shift, and we did a dry run. We would actually open the restaurant, make all the food. It would be a chance for us to get any kinks out, any mistakes, work on that, so that when they officially opened, we would be ready to go. So I was going to be a second shift. So I was coming in that day with my mom, my aunt, my sister, and her best friend. And we were going to come eat at Cece's for free. The night before, I drank with the Cumberland University football team and drank Alizé and some drinks that I don't know what they were, and got trashed. So trashed that I did not throw up until the next morning when I got into my truck and realized that I was supposed to be at Cece's Pizza. Mind you, I forgot that my mom and aunt and my sister and her best friend were all coming as well. So I'm like, oh my God, I got to get back. Okay. So I leave Lebanon, drive to Gallatin, which is like a 25, 30-minute drive. Get to my apartment, and as soon as I do, my mom calls. She's like, hey, we're on our way to your apartment. And I was like, why? She's like, for friends and family. I was like, oh my God. So I'm still like, I still feel like trash. So I'm like, okay, run into my apartment, take a quick shower, get my clothes on, come down and meet them. So everything goes to plan. I get down just in time. They show up. Cece's Pizza was only like a minute from my apartment. So we go to Cece's. I go in. My mom's like, are you not going to eat? So they're all sitting down with their plates. I'm like, no, I'm not really hungry. She's like, okay. So I'm pretty sure she knows something's up. I'm still smell like alcohol. I have to. So I'm starting to feel a little better. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go grab a piece of pizza. So I go and they had this Alfredo pizza with pepperoni, and that was like one of my favorite pizzas. So I get 2 pieces of that. I go sit down. I take one bite, and as soon as it hits my mouth, my body's like, you done messed up. So I'm like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. And I jump up, run to the back, and before I can get the door open, I start violently throwing up on the door as I'm pushing it open. There's a gentleman standing at the urinal who turns around and just yells, oh, as I projectile vomit onto the stall door of the same bathroom. He's trying to like zip it up and run out. And I go in and I throw up all over everything. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'm done. I get up, and this poor girl in her little brand new Cece's Pizza uniform is just standing there with a mop bucket and a mop. And I look at her and I said, I'm so sorry. So that was my first official. And then I had to come in and work that evening. So I went home and slept, and I felt better. But yeah, that was my first official day at Cece's Pizza.
Boot and rally. Boot and rally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like the top story. That's better than my Hollywood video one. I've never projectile vomited. I've never recreated the Exorcist scene.
It was bad.
Oh.
It was bad.
Roger puked at my apartment complex once, and it stayed there for a year.
Thanks, Roger.
You're the worst.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't tell any more stories legally, so we'll have to wrap this one up. Be sure to follow us everywhere. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Weirdos and YouTube channel. If we don't have a video up of the actual podcast, we'll have a companion video. They're pretty fun. But just follow us everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, I'm Jay.
And I'm Kellen.
And keep it
weird.
Producer
Rodney, everybody.
Rodney Coxlinger, everybody.